Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a review / discussion for my most anticipated release of 2019, and that's The Dragon Republic by r.k.kuang. Like I said, The Dragon Republic was my most anticipated release of this year. It is the sequel to The Poppy War, a book I absolutely loved. It was my second favorite book of 2018. I could not wait to get my hands on this. If you didn't know, The Poppy War is a high fantasy story inspired by Chinese history. It follows a young girl named Rin who is really poor and destitute, so she is determined to fix everything, get away from her terrible family. So she ends up taking this test that is offered like nationwide to prove that she can get into the top school and like change everything. After getting into the school of her choice, she realizes that her battle has just begun. She has to face a lot of really terrible people and things, and war is brewing with her country, and she finds herself at the center of it. So for my review portion of this video, you don't have to worry. I will not be spoiling either the Poppy War or the Dragon Republic. I do plan on having a spoilery bit, just getting to talk and vent about my feelings, because there is a lot that I do want to discuss, but don't worry, I will warn you before the spoilers come. We don't have a title or a release date for the third and final book in this trilogy, and it's like killing me slowly. So I kind of put this out of my mind for a little bit, so some details might be a little fuzzy, but I was just so nervous I would fully go into a reading slump and not read anything, because I'm just so like emotionally invested in this story, because this was wild. Yeah, I thought it was really good. Let's get into the actual review portion now. Hi, this is editing Isabella from the future. I actually recorded my Dragon Republic review many weeks ago and only have now just gotten to editing it, and frequently throughout the video I complained that we did not have a release date, a title, a cover, whatever. We have now gotten one step further. We have now officially gotten a title for book 3 in the Poppy War. It is going to be called The Burning God. There's also tentatively a release date for book 3 on Goodreads. It's listed as October 2nd, 2020, and I'm hoping that's going to be true, but Goodreads has been pretty notorious for being wrong in the past, so we shall see, but at least the book doesn't seem so far away now. And yeah, let's get back into my review. I can't do it. I was going to try and film my review holding this book up, but it's heavy, so it's getting put down. I'm sorry. In terms of the world building and expansion on the world, I thought that was A+. Very well done. It's no secret that I really loved the world of the Poppy War. I thought the magic was really interesting, the world building really well done. We had a really good cohesive understanding of Rin's homeland. However, I do remember saying that I really want things to be expanded in the sequel, and that's exactly what r.k.kuang does. Everything was just expanded on, and we have a really good now understanding of like the whole surrounding region, or at least the major players in the region, and I'm just so happy to understand more. I also really enjoyed getting to see different places in Rin's homeland. We go to different places in the land, and I just really liked the setting of each individual place that we go to. I thought they were all very interesting. Love seeing like mini functioning cities. I had no complaints whatsoever. In terms of the characters, I thought overall the characters and their arcs were really well done. Our main character Rin goes through a lot in the Poppy War, and so I could see why some people maybe don't like the way that she behaves, especially in the first half of this book. However, I thought it actually really made sense for Rin and her character. It could be a little frustrating as a reader, but she has experienced so much trauma. Basically, she's just functioning in any sort of way that can allow her to somewhat survive, and whilst it can be a little frustrating, I did understand why she was behaving the way she was, and I really liked when she changed and started to reclaim some things and started becoming a more active player in the story, and like within her own mind, the poor girl has gone through so much. I also really like the development into a lot of the side characters. We get a lot of answers with certain characters, and just everyone gets a little bit more well-rounded and developed and has their own motivations, as one would expect from a good sequel. I really liked some of our little mini character arcs from some of the side characters, and I just loved how certain ones came together. Sorry, I'm trying to remain neutral and spoiler free. Ooh, and I also really liked that a lot of our villainous characters / entities are developed a lot more. We get a lot of answers into why certain people behave the way they do. As much as you hate the villains, I liked knowing more about their motivations, why they are the way they are. I thought that was really well done, because that was a little bit of a complaint I had in the first Poppy War. Okay, so in terms of the plot, this is the one portion of the book that I struggled with just a little bit. This book gets very heavily militaristic. There is like war. War is happening, and war is happening for basically a majority of the story. And just to know about me and my tastes, I don't tend to love military stories in the sense where you get the drudgery of every day-by-day thing that's happening. The monotony of war tends to bore me. So there was a slight section in this book where I was like, ooh, I'm getting nervous. Is this going to be boring? I did come around to it. I did like some of the scope of the battles, and I liked a lot of the other things that happened in the plot. The military stuff just didn't thrill me as much. I also think that this went fully in a direction I was not expecting. I had some ideas maybe of where the story would go, and boy did it dash like all my hopes, and I just was thrilled by it. I really enjoyed a lot of the reveals, but I do think it made for an entertaining and like engaging story and plot. I really liked the action and the stakes that went along with this story. It was like heart-pounding, nerve-wracking from almost start to finish. I was almost always uneasy because I just knew that when things were going right, they were just going to go wrong, and I just was obsessed with reading it. Honestly, in terms of the writing, I think she just excels. I think the tone of the writing suits the story so very well. It's very dark and gruesome and upsetting, but like it has the littlest bit of hope and some humor in there to keep you going and not just be like crazy depressed all the time. And I think it just hits like the perfect spot for all of that. I'm always impressed by how very well r.k.kuang knows her characters, which might sound really weird, but she knows how they operate. She doesn't make characters make dumb decisions just to move the plot along. I also really enjoyed the fact that this was an exploration into trauma. It doesn't focus on it all the time, but it does explore the effects of what traumatic things can do to a person and how it can warp them and their decision making. And I thought that was a really fascinating little side plot or theme. I thoroughly enjoyed my experience while reading it. It was a roller coaster of emotions. I couldn't believe some of the twists and turns this story took. It broke my heart, mended it, and then like broke it all again. It takes what the Poppy War did so well and just expands on it. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars if you couldn't tell. I loved this book. I do think I prefer the Poppy War. I don't think the Dragon Republic managed to top it, but it definitely was a great follow-up, fantastic sequel. Highly recommend the series. So I think this is now where I'm going to start talking a bit of spoilers. I have a ton of notes here. I don't think I'm actually now going to go over all of them because this video will be so long. I'm just going to talk about what I want to talk about. It worked well for my City of Brass review, so that's what we're going to do here. If this is where you have to leave me, thank you so much for watching. Come back when you've read the Dragon Republic, because this is an epic story and I need someone to just like talk about it with. I will start off, however, with the beginning of this story, because the beginning of the story just like broke my heart. I now should have realized that that was going to be the state of me the whole time. Rin is one of my favorite characters of all time. I love her so much, and her arc in the Poppy War I think is like beautiful, just so well done. Poor Rin is just barely alive, barely functioning, and she's just functioning on the idea of revenge, and I just was so sad for her. I definitely understand why, when she's given the chance to no longer be a leader, why she jumps at the chance to leave and just follow orders again, because that's how she was trained, and she's just so broken that she doesn't really care if someone is using her and grooming her. Side note, that stuff with Neja's father, like the grooming that went in there, was gross. So we all knew Neja was going to be in the story, that he wasn't dead, and I'm thrilled about it, don't get me wrong. And I was also really happy to see him introduced into the story very quickly. I thought it might be he gets introduced like 3/4 of the way into the novel, but no, he's a very active participant, and I loved the trajectory of their relationship. Made me sad, but at the beginning I was happy, and every time we had like a kind of quiet moment with them, I was dying for it, and that's probably why I didn't expect the ending to happen, but here we are. I was also so saddened by the fact that Katai and Rin had like the biggest falling out, and that Katai was kind of being an ass to her. She needs all the friends she could get, and the fact that he was being really naive and a brat, really, I was upset by, and I'm so glad the way that their relationship turned out and how they literally now have to rely on each other in terms of everything. And I just think that Katai really grounds Rin. I forget his father's name, but I immediately did not trust him anytime in like fiction or real life when a very rich person is going to say, I'm going to revolutionize our country and be a benevolent benefactor and change the lives of the poor. Like, obviously you can't trust that shit, and I knew that he was going to probably become a big villain or a villainous player. I was correct. That's not something that I don't think was so shocking. Oh, and Venka's back. I loved Venka. I thought she was super underutilized in the first book and kind of underutilized in this one. But I know she's going to have a very active role in the third book, and I'm glad to see that there will be a friendship sort of forming with Rin and Venka. So, yep, happy about that. And in terms of the Hesperians, as soon as the Hesperians were introduced, I was uncomfortable. They are very unsettling, as I guess they're supposed to be, and you could just tell that something was going to go fucking wrong with them. And boy, does it. Wow. Ooh, so when we got into like the actual nitty-gritty of the military stuff, your girl was bored for a bit. I think that was a little bit of the point, because Rin was just so done with everything that she just wanted the monotony of war, but war is monotonous. Day battles on the ground, all that kind of shit, just fighting is boring. I don't like heavily military stories, so I was nervous, but we detract from that pretty quickly, and I loved the section with Chagan and his sister and like all their very complicated dynamics. This is definitely the shifting point of the story. Rin kind of comes back to herself. She gains her fire back. She puts Alton to rest. Side note, hate the fact that Rin was in love with Alton. That made me want to vomit. I wanted it to be more like she loved him because he was her mentor, but apparently she was actually in love with him, and just gross. That's disgusting. I hate Alton. Still. Even when we got like a little flashback shit with Alton, I hate him. And it also really sets up a lot of stuff for the final book, because we know we're going to have the conflict with Chagan's people, and they're going to be big players in the final book, I think. So that stuff was fascinating to me. I loved learning about that. So the last bit of the book, I honestly read like on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was literally panicked while reading it. I honestly did not expect Daji to survive this book. I thought that Rin was going to get her in revenge and stuff, but it makes sense now that she's not going to be dead, and now Rin and her are probably going to have to work together, which is really, really twisted and interesting. I'll be like super excited to see what that turns out to be. And then the battle just kind of like doesn't go where you expect it to go. It ends really quickly, and then I was just like nervous. I'm pretty sure there was like, I don't know, 75 pages to the end, after the battle ends, and I was just like, what's going to happen? And it turns out Hesperia happens. Rin and her crew get just utterly fucked over, and then the betrayal of all betrayals happens. I never expected Neja, who's in love with Rin, you can't convince me otherwise, to literally stab Rin in the back. I'm glad that the story didn't leave off right there with like Neja stabbing her in the back, because I don't think I would have been able to function for the next year. Her, Katai, and Venka leave with some of the warlords of the like poorer states, and they're essentially going to wage huge wars against Hesperia and Vaesra and his crew. And now Rin and Neja are literally on the opposite sides of a war, and my heart is sad. I am dying for the final book in this series. Hopefully we get it next year. But until then, feel free to discuss with me the events of the Dragon Republic, because boy, would I like to honestly grieve with someone. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm thrilled that I finally have filmed this video. But yeah, I'll see you again next time. Bye!